Hello and welcome everyone. This is Dr. Mohammad Mayouf from Birmingham City University, a senior lecturer in digital construction, also a visiting professor at Ziggurat Institute of Technology. It's a pleasure to be at the BIM Coordinators Summit again. And today my talk will be on Sustainability Development Goals, SDGs, and digital construction forming the bricks. Obviously, Sustainability Development Goals is becoming increasingly important, not only within the construction sector, but also across all sectors worldwide. And in many cases, it's becoming mandatory to map SDGs to different operations, different industry, hence the focus of this talk. So for today's talk, we will be going to three main streams. A review of digital construction technologies across the whole life cycle. I think it's important to recall the evolvement in our industry. Where did we get to? What happened with the digital construction technologies? I mean, it's been 2 decades since BIM was introduced practically and effectively, and now it's a lot much more than BIM itself. We'll talk about the value of these digital construction technologies for the built environment across the whole life cycle, and I will identify and highlight an abstraction of the challenges to adopt and implement digital construction technologies. The second bit will be looking into sustainability development goals, and I will give a review reflecting about the current status, at least within the UK, and then followed by sustainability development goals in the built environment, and finally the challenges to integrate sustainability development goals in our industry. And the last but not least, obviously, we will be looking into how we would like to tie the knots between digital construction technologies and SDGs. And the last bit will be about forming the bricks. So just to give a little bit of an insight, obviously, it's no brainer that BIM has initiated the very first, let's say, open wide gate of our digital construction technologies in our industry. As a concept, it was introduced back in the 1970s, effectively probably started to appear in the following 2000, early 2000s, but then becoming much more effective when BIM dimensions were introduced almost early 2010, and this is still ongoing. Internet of Things, yes, it may not have been something that the construction industry has benefited from as early as 1990s, but started to increasingly benefit from it, again, within the 21st century, effectively post 2010. VR, AR technologies, one of the might be perceived as underestimated technology in our industry, still heavily used within training and development, but at the same time, it's again one of the most effective, or let's put it this way, one of the widely adopted digital construction technologies in our industry. Obviously, VR appeared before AR and then again became heavily deployed post 2010. Autonomous technologies, again, probably appeared conceptually and a little on the practical side back in the 1970s. Yet in our industry, it started to make its ways probably a little bit earlier than IoT. So probably end of 1980s, just in the beginning of 1990s, 3D printing, digital twins, artificial intelligence, which is now the hot topic to talk about in our industry as well, collectively with digital twins. And of course, last but not least, blockchain technology, which came heavily involved in the computing side, but then became increasingly important within our industry. Now, obviously, when we look at our industry, from a digital construction technologies point of view, and I really like this map that Autodesk has drawn at some point to really divide the different bits and different elements of thinking that go into the whole life cycle. Today, I've divided that into 3 different parts to actually shed the light on where do these digital construction technologies sit. Effectively, if we look at an abstraction of the value that these digital construction technologies provided, from a digital collaboration point of view, we've got BIM, VR, AR, blockchain, really started to make a huge way, obviously not across all phases, effectively during the design and construction. There is a lot of work being done in the operational side, but again, it's still quite early when it comes to blockchain, for instance. When it comes to on-site execution, obviously BIM, VR, AR, autonomous technologies, as well as a 3D printing are making a huge progress. Process optimization, when it comes to AI and digital twin, in particular, almost across all phases, is becoming very much apparent right now. And the reason for this, for optimization to start becoming a lot much more tangibly measured, is the fact that we have more availability and more access to data. So we're able to record more data, we're able to access the data, we're able to visualize and provide whether predictive or prescriptive analytics out of this data. And of course, last but not least, building performance, which is heavily being handled by IoT, digital twin, and in fact, AI as well. But at the same time, it's important to understand that this abstraction does not disregard the fact that our industry is really complex. And the reason for this is, I'll start with the fact that there's a lot of interconnectivities between these different technologies and different aspects within the construction industry. Unlike automotive or manufacturing industry or many other industries worldwide, the number of processes in our industry are not completely fixed in different projects. What does that mean? Maybe people perceive construction as, pre-design, design, construction, operation. But actually, people also may perceive it as quality management, risk management, design management, construction management, project management, quantity surveying, building surveying. So there are different ways to conceptualize our industry, and again, that different conceptualization is creating these multi layers of complexities, and that's why it's very difficult to actually indicate that, for example, X technology is making a contribution across everything. No, and this is one of the complexities. We're not saying that digital construction technology is not benefiting. No, in fact, it's benefiting a lot, and as you can see from the map here, built by McKinsey and company, they have attempted to interconnect different digital construction technologies to different aspects. Others have actually looked at construction as a series of multiple journeys when it comes to different complexities. So, for instance, technical complexity, risk, directional complexity, structural complexity, and also temporal complexity risk, which again reflects the complexity of the involvement of the stakeholders across different phases, and how that does not have a fixed tone, it's always changing. It's very important at that point to understand that all of this interconnects into the complex workflows, which may look quite manageable right at the beginning of a construction project, but actually it becomes very much complicated as we progress further. And it's important to bear in mind that we cannot treat these different workflows as siloed workflows, because they are interconnected. Whether directly or indirectly, they are interconnected. So this is what's making digital construction technologies, in essence, quite difficult to prove its value across all the phases. And that's why up until now, the applications are quite sitting in their comfortable zone. So for instance, BIM until now is still being perceived as the effective digital construction technology to be applied early during the design for federation or for model federation, avoiding clashes, and also during construction phase to aid the execution. When it comes to IoT, digital twin, artificial intelligence, we can say that they sit a lot much more comfortably during the operation and maintenance stage. When we look at, for instance, blockchain, again, it sits within the comfortable zone of contracts. Why? Because it's still a lot of research is being invested heavily into this. And this is all coming back to the point of why we need to be looking at digital construction technologies always with a critical eye, because there is no fixed way to indicate this is the way that you're going to be interconnecting them. This is the way they're going to be providing value. It varies from a project to another. It varies from a scope to another, and it varies on the intention of the project and the use of the technology. Obviously, with all of these complexities, we have this additional must integrated layer, sustainability. It's not now, it's been there for a very long time, I would have to say even sustainability is even as a global agenda before even digital construction technologies made its ways within our industry. And it is an integral part connected to resilience, connected to human-centric, and at the same time, it's part of Industry 5.0, which I think most of industries settle within in this era. Why are sustainability development goals important? Sustainability in essence, if we want to abstractly tackle its understanding, people perceive it generally from an environmental, economic, or social perception. And while this is still valid in many different ways, it didn't really provide that holistic understanding and holistic reflection of its importance across different aspects within a particular industry. Obviously, the illustration you see in the front of you is the current status, I think updated by 2021 or 2022, current status in the UK. And you can actually tell that there is a good progress being invested. Okay, for instance, when it comes to good health and well-being, when it comes to life on land, when it comes to decent work and economic growth, there is an excellent achievement or excellent measurable attributes when it comes to looking at these sustainability development goals. However, when we're looking at other sustainability development goals like 17, partnerships for goals, peace, justice, and strong institutions, industry innovation and infrastructure, which is still moderately fine compared to others, we can still see that, you know what, there is a long way to go. Obviously, I'm not here to come and discuss the sustainability development goals in general, because that's not the scope, but I have picked up the sustainability development goals that are interrelated and sit within construction industry. Obviously, there are various different ways again to look at this, but from research, from reading, we identified that the following sustainability development goals, 3, 7, 9, 11, 12, 13, and 17, are best that can portray sustainability within our industry. Obviously, some may, for example, indicate that, oh, gender equality should be there, quality education should be there, reduced inequalities should be there. I'm not going to be opposing to this. However, currently within the infrastructure of our industry, these 7 sustainability development goals are the ones that we have, or we could claim that we have evidence or data that can portray them. What we have done recently in an extensive research to look into sustainability development goals and its integration within our industry, and we intentionally looked into this, for example, as how we could integrate it within metaverse. Some may question here or be a little bit skeptical about why did we pick up metaverse. Metaverse tend to integrate all digital construction technologies in one venue or in one hub. It would be really good when people think about it this way, then they are taking into consideration these different digital construction technologies. And what we found when we settled or when we got the results back is that these 7 digital construction or these different sustainability development goals have got some limitations in some parts and are doing good in other parts. Obviously, from evidence, we could see that there is a good progress when it comes to the technology side for SDG 7 and 9 and 11 partly, but there's a long way to go when it comes to good health and well-being, responsible consumption and production, climate action, partnerships for goals. Why did we settle this within the spectrum of people, process, and technology? For 2 very simple reasons. The very first is for understanding where work needs to be done. So for instance, here, if we look at SDG 17, we could actually identify that there's a lot of work to be done when it comes to process, and there's a lot of work to be done when it comes to technology. When it's climate change, there's almost an equivalent work between processes to achieve or tackle climate challenges, as well as a role of people to tackle these challenges. So this is the mechanism. So we wanted to provide much more of prompting awareness than providing indicative measures. In response to this, we identified that yes, technologically, there needs to be a lot much more work when looking at SDGs within digital construction technologies, or at least within our industry. Obviously, if we look at SDGs generally within construction, it will differ, but our focus today is to look at SDGs from a digital construction technology point of view. Obviously, going onto the last bits of the presentation, when we started tying the knots in here, it was very important to us, before even mapping technologies into this, to go back to the basics. So we identified where these 7 SDGs sit within the whole life cycle. And again, this is quite perceptive and at the same time interpreted in a certain way. So when it comes to plan and design, we found that there are 6 SDGs that sit in there, 5 SDGs that sit in build, and 5 SDGs that sit in operate. And when we wanted to start forming the bricks, we thought it was very important to actually look at it from a sustainability development goal point of view, and then mapping it against different phase. So what we did is we color coded different digital construction technologies in here for easing to read. And so the BIM dark blue, IoT orange, and other digital constructions with their respective colors. Good health and well-being, maybe one of the least touched on SDGs within our industry, although we may perceive it as an integral part that actually do happen as part of our processes. But again, it would be really important to start mapping how we use digital construction technology to develop or to contribute towards that sustainability development goal. Similarly, when it comes to affordable and clean energy, I think most work right now from a practice or from a research point of view is heavily invested in buildings that are in use. And there is a very good reason for this, because there's always this tendency to reduce amount of energy used and rely more on renewable energies. This is again being utilized in planning and design, of course, as a result of what we gather during the operational side. When it comes to industry and innovation infrastructure, I think it was very difficult to divide them across different phases, because we believe that all digital construction technologies across all the phases play an integral part in this and play an important part. It just depends on the intention, what we're trying to achieve, and how we are creating innovation. Sustainable cities and communities. Yes, some may disagree that, you know what, we should think about this during the planning and design. We should think about this during execution. But really, the whole essence of this is what you invest in SDG 9 is what you will recognize in SDG 11. They're very much interconnected. SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. Again, some may disagree that why we did not put digital construction technologies as part of the operational side, because, you know, it's part of the circular economy. But again, it's really important to focus on what really matters on the current situation. So there needs to be a lot much more emphasis. And I think we've seen a great progress when it comes to seeing, for example, a movement towards modular units or 3D printing, and nowadays even 4D printing and so forth. Climate change and partnership for goals, similar to SDG 9, I believe. It again is achievable via an integration of different digital construction technologies in different ways. Obviously, depending on the project, maybe one digital construction technology will have a heavier weight compared to the other, but that's the way forward. Obviously, this is still early stages work. It's really important to have this holistic understanding of how we reach these results, but more importantly, it's important to understand how we integrate these SDGs as part of the whole life cycle. And when we are applying digital construction technologies, are we applying it bearing in mind that we are paying our part back to sustainability or not? I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and I look forward to see all of you on the day. Thank you.